necessary to survive in a very complicated environment, so that the animal never puts a foot wrong, the creature, the robot, never puts a foot wrong. And it still isn't obvious why it has to be subjectively conscious. So if you stick a pin in it, it may scream. But that doesn't mean it's conscious either, because it could just be programmed to scream when you stick a pin in it.
Yeah.
So I suppose all I'm trying to say is that it's a very difficult problem.
Perhaps a few frames of Poole would shed some light on this mystery. I'd found a good opponent on these matters, a philosophy graduate and Poole shark, David the Hurricane Glover.
If we say something like, kind of, why do giraffes have long necks? There is an evolutionary explanation why it's good for them to evolve long necks.
Tall trees?
Tall trees, exactly, yeah. But in terms of why does a giraffe have to have the taste of the leaf rather than just eating it, there isn't an evolutionary explanation for that.
Yeah, but tasting isn't consciousness, is it? Tasting is tasting.
But it's an
I mean,
experience.
smelling isn't consciousness. Can't be, but then, because
Why not?
well, in that case, you're going to say pretty well every animal's conscious. I mean, because they're all enough good at smelling, better than us. I mean, you know, smelling that way, not.
Oh yeah, but we don't know that they're actually conscious of the smell. Do you see what I mean? They could be on automatic. This is the thing.
Well, God almighty, I mean, they can tell one smell from another smell.
Yeah, but they might...
listen, I tell you what, there's more to it than that as well. You know, they talk about dogs leaving messages.
Yeah.
Well, I would swear it's true with the male dogs, yeah?
What do you mean, dogs leaving messages? Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, I don't know. It's a euphemism for having a pee, but I think it might be literally true.
Literally true.
I would say that there's at least 8 different things he can say with his wee.
Really?
Yeah, and he really thinks about it. Now he's got old, that's about the only interest he's got in life. And he goes in and thinks about things, he smells what's there, what's been left, and gives his reply.
At least my dog's got some answers. Unlike the unsolved riddles revolving round my brain. Thinking about thinking is like trying to taste your own tongue. That is the big mystery, isn't it? We cannot understand understanding.
Exactly. We can come up with all these metaphors, but we cannot begin to explain how electrical changes in a cell can produce this. I mean, that's extraordinary thing. Consciousness is a miracle. Absolutely. I think it's the greatest miracle. It's the greatest achievement of nature. And you see, the fascinating thing about it is that by evolving consciousness, nature has become conscious of itself.
Am I in my brain?
Well, it's a very sophisticated question, you see, because that's quite a recent idea that you are in your brain.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
where
I mean,
where would I
the early Greeks thought that you lived in your diaphragm.
Really, did they?
Yeah. The idea was your soul was your breath, and they knew that your diaphragm was what you used to bring in breath and let out breath.
Oh, I see, yes.
And other people thought that you exist in your heart. Many people believe that that's where you live. But it's only comparatively recently that we've decided that it's in the brain. So that's quite a sophisticated question. Whereabouts in your brain you exist? You live. Well, Descartes believed you lived in the pineal gland. Where's the pineal? That's right in the middle, right in the center of the brain. And many people,
the third eye?
Well, many people have that feeling that if you ask, I mean, where do you think you live? Where do you feel you live?
Well, I thought it was further back.
I see. Well, many people feel that it is somewhere up there, you know.
Yes.
I remember when I was at Oxford, I used to go around asking people where they thought they lived. And people said that it moved, what they were doing. For example, oarsmen said that when they were really struggling, really trying hard, they were up here somewhere, in the middle, behind their shoulders, you know. When your jockeys said, well, you know, they felt right up here somewhere, and they'd flow into the head of the horse, urging it to get its head beyond the winning post. But the answer now, I think, is that there is no centre.
So there's no centre of consciousness, no master control switch, and yet it can be switched on and off by chemicals. Leslie Bromley does it half a dozen times a day in her operating theatres.
You would say, would you, the anaesthetics relieve the patient of his consciousness?
Yeah, patients become unconscious.
They become unconscious. Yeah.
But exactly how unconscious they are, I can't tell you.
What you mean? It might just be that their muscles aren't working.
No, we do. Oh, there he is. Hello, he's the patient.
I suppose this fella's going to find out for himself. He looks like he could do with a belt of laughing gas to cheer him up.
The reason why anaesthetics only tell us something about consciousness in the brain is because it's like trying to crack a walnut with a hammer. All we can say is it turns off jolly nearly everything. But anaesthetics are too crude a tool for us to say very much about consciousness, except that we can abolish it to all intents and purposes while you have your operation and you don't know where you've been. But I think you're still in there somewhere. You're just not talking to people.
I'm always talking to people.
Oh, yeah, hello, yes, Ken Campbell here.
Next on my list is Richard Gregory. He's an inquirer into the nature of illusion. I arranged to meet him at his Bristol Exploratory.
Why do we study illusions?
It's a bit bizarre, really, isn't it? We're trying to discover truth through illusion. Well, the reason really is this. You've got the physical world out there. We have to make the best guess we can, the best bet we can, or in my terminology, the best hypothesis of what is out there. Yeah. Now, when you get a difference, a discrepancy, an error, it tells one what is happening within the brain.
Oh, I see. So by seeing what it is that we're getting wrong, yes, we can see how we work.
How we work. Exactly. That's the point.
So is this a meeting of minds, or the outline of a mosque? And why am I seeing a triangle that doesn't really exist?
What it seems to me is when I look at something, say this puzzle here, I'm seeing it with my eyes, so there's a picture that comes to my eyes, then it's played maybe on a screen in there, and then there's some little geezer in there looking at the screen. That's me. So it's that. It goes in through the eyes, it's on the screen and reported to the little fella in there.
Well, we used to think that, but we no longer believe that's true. Right. Because if it were, you would have a screen, a sort of eye looking at the screen, another eye, and it would go on forever and ever. That wouldn't get you anywhere. We think now very differently that the brain is a bit like a novelist, and it's describing the world from different features, like say Sherlock Holmes. Let's take Sherlock Holmes. There's a cigarette with a bit of lipstick on it. Immediately he's got this idea, golly, there was a woman in the room, you know, they thought it was a man, no, it was a woman. And then he reinterprets the evidence around him.
Right, so for me, that's a duck. For me, there's the rabbit, and now it's a duck on its back. That's a rabbit on its back now. So what's happening in my brain?
Well, I think initially that's more likely to be a duck's bill because they're horizontal. That's more likely to be a rabbit's ears because it's vertical.
Right.
But having said that, your brain can, as it were, entertain alternative hypotheses without rotating it. Will say, well, golly, maybe it's a funny way up
just
rabbit.
A brain saying, no, just a moment, Watson, it could be a rabbit on its back.
Exactly, which is always a possibility. By the way, if we couldn't see unusual things...
So Watson would always think that was a rabbit.
That's it. The more imaginative your brain is, artists, of course, particularly, the more alternatives you see. And if you couldn't see alternative possibilities, you'd be blind to the unusual.
Blind to the unusual? Not me, matey. It's almost a speciality. But I'll tell you what, there are people who are blind to the usual. After suffering a stroke, Peggy Palmer stopped seeing things on her left-hand side. There's nothing wrong with her eyes, it's just that her brain ignores half the story. So when she draws something, she thinks she's finished, when she's only drawn half of it.
So you don't have in your brain the bit that appreciates left-hand side.
Yeah, see, we've got pictures, haven't we? The brain tells you what you're looking at. It tells you that's a table, that's a chair.
When you look at yourself in the mirror, is there a side of you that you don't see?
I don't see this side. Derek had to tell me to do this side this morning. I put my makeup on
But
that side.
if it's pointed out to you that there is another side, then you can do it.
Yeah.
But automatically, you just wouldn't
It's
think
an
to do it.
automatic thing, you see. Brain works on its own. You don't. You've got to be aware of. You've got to be on your toes all the time. You've got to be aware of everything all the time.
I see. So if you actually pay attention